There's a lot of recorders in there.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Gorham School Committee for March 11th, 2026. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, moving on to roll call, please.
Nicole Yo Fisher.
Here.
Michelle Littlefield.
Here.
Jeffrey Ballard.
Here.
Mia DeSanctis.
Here.
Polly Tatishi.
Here.
Lawanza Tompkins.
Here.
Eric Thistle.
Here.
Okay, great. Moving on to 1.3, I am going to make an adjustment to the agenda and remove March 9th's workshop meeting minutes. So I'm going to ask for approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of February 11th, the workshop meeting minutes of February 25th, and March 2nd.
I'd like to make a motion to adjust the meeting minutes on February 25th to read special meeting minutes as opposed to workshop meeting minutes.
Okay. Motion by Michelle. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. And so we're going to be voting on the amendment first, which is to change the name of the meeting minutes. All those in favor? 7-0. Okay. Moving on to the approval of the meeting minutes of the regular meeting of February 11th, the special meeting minutes of February 25th, and the workshop meeting minutes of March 2nd. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Michelle, second by? Second by Jeff. All those in favor? 7-0. Thank you. Moving on to 2.0 administrative reports. Are there any questions or comments about the administrative reports?
I have one.
Go for it.
I think it's a solid audience to call this out, that we have a music teacher in the running for, it looks like a $10,000 reward, essentially, for music. So there's voting daily for Isaac Hawkins at the middle school for the Manilow, the high school, Manilow Music Teacher Award. So if folks you can vote for that daily, and it could end up that we would win that $10,000. So I think you can find that link on social media. It might be the best place on the district's website.
On the high school's website under their weekly newsletter.
Awesome.
Great. Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none. Thank you to all of the members of the district leadership team that provide us those reports. We do appreciate it. Now moving on to 2.2 program review, Narragansett Elementary Band presentation. Superintendent Perry.
Well, I'm going to quickly turn it over to Mrs. Epler, I believe, who's going to introduce the fine group of young instrument players here tonight. We have some leaders coming up too. Nice.
Good evening. Thank you for having us here this evening. I'm Erin Epler. I'm the principal of Narragansett. I was here a year ago, and since then with the band, but since then we've made some really amazing improvements that we're really excited to share with you. I just do want to say that working in Gorham is really special because you work with absolutely amazing people. One of those amazing people is Lila Weiser, who is our music teacher, our band director, our community dance facilitator. Lila Weiser has joined our school community and absolutely transformed our fine arts program related to music. She was the driving force behind the change that we made to band. And for those, if you're not familiar, in the past, band occurred after school, and that was it. So students would bring their instruments. Students in all the different groups would come once a week and try to learn an instrument with one person leading them, which was very challenging. Now, as we know, the other amazing part of Gorham is the middle school and the high school has an amazing program. And what they recognized is there was a disconnect from elementary school coming up to middle school and high school. So Lila worked very, very closely with the middle and the high school to come up with a proposal. So we are now so proud to be able to offer band during the day to all fifth graders who are interested. That means that fifth graders who are interested in learning an instrument and being in the band, they they select one, and then they're placed in a group. So during their creative arts rotation, they're able to once a week, every single day for the whole year, instead of just once a week, just in general, learn their instrument. And then we kind of enter our concert season, and that's when they get to perform. This is their very first performance. The other thank you, I have to shout out to Mitzi Smith, our transportation director. Having band during the day, previously, before school or after school, it was an equity issue. Children who couldn't get transportation weren't able to participate. Working with Mitzi, we've been able to create an after-school band run. So any families who cannot transport their children, we're able to bus them home. And that is 100% the work of Ms. Weiser. Her vision, her leadership, her enthusiasm, and then Mitzi has been a tremendous help. So I just wanted to say that all those wonderful people deserve some thanks. And then I have some, no offense, even more wonderful people here to just tell you a little bit before the performance.
Hello and thank you so much. Hello and thank you so much for having us. We're the Narragansett 5th grade band. My name's Alex and I play trumpet.
My name is Lincoln and I play trombone. We have band practice twice a week, once during school during specials, and the other is after school on Thursdays.
My name is Abigail and I play trumpet. Band is such a fun opportunity and we are all grateful to receive the support necessary to run this new program.
My name is Hayden and I play trumpet. We'll be playing 2 songs for you today, a duet and hot cross buns. Please enjoy and thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was
Thank
wonderful.
you.
Thank you.
That was wonderful.
Good job.
While you're leaving, what you didn't realize is Eddie is down. He is wagging his tail and clapping for all of you.
Loving it. Oh, that's awesome.
Parents, you do not have to stay. You are welcome to, but we appreciate you all.
Great.
Thank you very much. Also to make note, I should have said this before, we're appearing to be having microphone issues, so if folks if they're watching live and can't hear us, our apologies. We're working on it. Moving on to 2.3 Program Review, Special Education Program Review, Superintendent Perry.
Yeah, so poor Kathy. Every time I ask her to do a presentation, it's after a student presentation. This was they're awesome. It's really hard to follow. I don't know if you're going to play an instrument for us or what are you going to do? Definitely not. But Kathy's here tonight to give a presentation around special education programming. I thought this was timely just because we are talking about budget for next year. Also, this is always a hot topic in terms of understanding, the needs of our students and the programming that we provide and how kind of special ed works a little bit, and so Kathy's here to provide us some overarching
Hopefully.
information, and we can dig deeper if we need
Just
to.
not nearly as entertaining. in a
Not as
way.
entertaining, no.
Heather, what's the password to get on this?
Oh, 1-to-1.
Did she say 121? That's what I did.
Number 2.
Teamwork. I was spelling the whole thing out.
Yeah.
Okay. That's not what I want. Okay. So, Gorham Special Services, in our current school year, we're going to give you a little bit about what we are and a bit about what we've been doing. So I'm Kathy Hamlin, Director of Special Services, and my trusty partner, Nicole Poole, is our Assistant Director. And what we oversee is Special Education, Section 504, and Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act for the district. Section 504, so what is that? It is a civil rights law, and it was actually made for the workplace, but it actually also comes down into the schools. And so that wasn't necessarily something foreseen when it was actually first made. And so it is for our purposes, it's for students who have disabilities that are in need of accommodations. They don't need direct instruction, they need accommodations in order to access their educational environment or their educational lessons. Where special education is for students who have disabilities but are lagging in a skill that their average peer has, and they're usually about 2 or more years behind in that skill due to a disability of one of 13 classification areas, and we'll talk a little bit about what those are. And it can be that they're behind in academics, social emotional, executive functioning, and so we have to do evaluations that are very, very specific. There is very specific ways of looking at the eligibility, a lot of legalese behind that, and then that occurs through individual education plans and IEP. So that's kind of in a nutshell. There's a lot more to it. But who do we have upstairs in our office? I have an administrative assistant. We have a main care billing specialist / special ed secretary right now. School psychologists, we have 3 of them in our district. And district behavior specialists, we have currently 4 that are servicing our K-12 special ed programs. And then across our district, we have functional life skills programs and classes at every one of our schools at this time. So you can see where those are. We also have resource room programs. Functional life skills that program is for students who, it's considered a self-contained program. The majority of the students in there are receiving special education services for 60% or more of their day. It's usually for students who have more significant needs due to intellectual disability, significant autism, or other health impairments. We also have a self-contained program. It's a behavior program, which is housed at Village for Elementary because it's a smaller number. And so there may be other students from other schools that are also accessing it. They come over to that program in order to access the learning in that program and the supports there. At our middle school and high school, we have all of those programs at those schools. As you can see in the middle there, I have an instructional strategist at each school. What they are is they're our team leaders. They are the mini us's. They're there to really be there for the team. They take on things that normally the special ed teachers were doing that was taking our special ed teachers away from the teaching process, such as evaluating our students for every 3 years they have to be reevaluated with formal assessments and observations. And so the strategists are doing that. They're also, they oversee the referral process in each school. They are a big part of the RTI teams at each school, and they're kind of the gatekeeper to that referral process, and making sure that we're working with our students appropriately, and not just overflowing with referrals, but also making sure that we're not holding on to students in RTI too long either. And they're also there to help coach for the instructional programming, both in special education and regular education, as much as they are able to. We have 2 speech therapists at each one of our K-5s. One of the schools is 1.5, and we have one that covers grades 6 through 12, although she's getting a little help from somebody else right now because our numbers have gone up. We have 3 occupational therapists that are among K-12, and we also have 1 social worker at each of the K-8 schools that's part-time, is half-time special education, and 1.25 of special ed social work at the high school. Little history of our special ed population. We were really increasing, and you guys have been hearing me saying that, and I was getting worried, and services were getting scarce on that part, but we started to go down a little bit. I'm very excited. As you can see in 22, 23, and 23, 24, our numbers kept going up. And those were summers where people were moving in and nobody seemed to be moving out. Usually we have approximate same numbers. So that was one of those areas. And we were also just getting our functional life skills population just continued to boom and increase. That did start before, around 2017, we really started to see that increase, and it has just continued. And that is a big population for us. But we're at about where the national average is right now, and that is a good place to be. Our state average is right now, as you can see, is 20.6. There are some schools in the state of Maine that are over 30% of their population is in special education. That isn't a place you want to be. I think that the reason that we are where we are is because we do have strong RTI services. Mm-hmm. And it allows us to really work with kids to hopefully kind of hit them heavy and hard, and that it's not a long-term need, and we're able to get them back into the classroom and with their peers as much as possible. And that allows us to focus on the students with the biggest needs so that we can really take all the resources we have and also put them where they need to be, and we're not stretched as thin as many other school districts are. Our Section 504 population, it went up a bit. So federal law changed around 2013, and it really broadened who could qualify for that. And we were very concerned about how large that could be. But I think the processes that we have in place throughout this district have made it so that we have had an increase, but it's very appropriate of the numbers that we have, so that it hasn't been out of control. Thank you. It hasn't been out of control, but that we are focusing appropriately on the students that are in need of that. Looking at our population changes since July, so I'm often saying about how our population changes month to month. You never know where we're going to be. And so that just gives you an idea of why. So we had 26 students that moved out, 22 moved in, so yay, right? That's good. We're happy about this. 4 dropped out, but those, they all had a post-secondary plan. Some of them actually were going on to programs because the high school just wasn't meeting what they needed or what their needs were. But in order to do these programs, such as youth workforce development, you actually have to leave your high school. You have to technically drop out and leave in order to go into these programs. We're very happy. They had plans. They're moving forward, thank goodness. We have 47 that no longer qualified since September 1. So 29 of those are speech language students. That's what we expect is usually the biggest dismissals are on speech. Articulation needs is usually our highest one. And so we want to see that. It means that, that early intervention is working. Nicole, in the future, we'll be talking a lot more, not tonight, but we'll be talking a lot more about the continuing data that we're seeing from our pre-K programs and how excited we are, because we're definitely seeing that is working well for us. And then there are 18 others, such as specific learning disabilities or other health impairment, which might be like ADHD, that no longer qualified and are in need of special services at this time. There are 44 referrals, 16 qualified so far, 5 did not, and there's 23 in progress. So again, still kind of even, right? 47 no longer qualifying, 44 in the works that we're looking for. Very happy this year. Section 504 is case managed by our assistant principals in each building. They have oversight of all of those 504 cases. Nicole does help case manage the medical ones at the high school level to give them a break, because the high school has the most 504 cases. We start to see the increase in numbers primarily at the middle school, because we start seeing a lot more of the emotional disability needs that arise at that level, or ADHD. That often maybe wasn't really transparent and obvious in the younger years, but it becomes a little bit more obvious as they grow older. So they are scheduling and facilitating and administrating the 504 meetings. And each student has one annual meeting, and every 3 years they're reevaluated to reconsider eligibility. They're doing the referral intakes, they complete the paperwork, they get all that paperwork and the plans out to all the teachers, to the parents, and to the files. There's a lot of stuff to do in there, and they're killing it. They're doing a really nice job, but it is a lot of work for them. And they ask great questions, and they're always coming to us with those, so that's good. These are our current classifications on our IEPs. As I said, these are the areas that a student can qualify for special education under, and this would be on the front of the IEP. Those are the numbers that we have in district at this time. So we have 82 that are, their classification is autism, 106 are other health impairment. Other health impairment, again, as I mentioned a minute ago, it can be ADHD. There can be a number of things, other health factors that could be in there. Specific learning disability is 131. So as you can see, that's where we're at. On the other side where it says hard of hearing, deafness, there's no numbers there. We don't have anybody qualifying as that is their primary classification. It doesn't mean we don't have students with those disabilities. They might either be under multiple disabilities, or it might not be the primary disability. So some of these students will have more than one disability. We were directed by the state that we wanted to be careful about the number of students that have multiple disabilities. Maine got hit by a federal audit a while ago about that. And so the discussions are really around what is the primary piece, but it also, if there's somebody that, if they're qualifying for 2 or more disabilities, we're servicing those 2 or more disabilities. And it's in their IEP and it's in the plan. It's just that there's only one box we can check on the front of their IEP. So that's what those numbers are there for. But many of our students at this time are coming with multiple disabilities. It is not very common anymore to have just a specific learning disability in reading. So a few things going on in special education. We continue to try to work to attract and retain staff in a time of crisis. I've been saying this for years. There are not enough special educators in the nation, but definitely in Maine. It is a really big issue. It's a little bit better than it was a few years ago, thankfully. There are still so many schools in the state that have so many openings that they are not able to fulfill, whether it's a professional or an ed tech. And so there's high needs. I know many special ed directors, thank God not me, that are case managing and having to do a lot of the IEP writing and that work. Yeah, everybody knock on the wood, because they're just covering as much as they can. And we've been there and had some of those worries and that piece, but we're in a good place right now with where we're at staff-wise. It's just something always on our mind about making sure that we're trying to make sure our staff feel heard and prepared and ready so that we're not burning them out, because that is a really big issue everywhere around. It's hard work, it's a hard job. So we're just looking for all the ways that we can support them, and if you ever hear anybody with any new ideas, you let me know, because we're taking them all in. We continue to collaborate with Vocational Rehabilitation Services, which is a state program, federal program, to help students with transitioning from high school into the world of work or college. And so they will work with people with disabilities to either provide them with the supports on the job that are needed, or to obtain a job and maintain a job, or even for students in college in order to be able for them to access college levels. So we continue to really do some good work with them. Goodwill Services, Nicole will talk a little bit about that in a bit. And we take advantage of as many Aspire opportunities as we can and work closely with them. We are preparing to take the 3 to 5-year-olds on as they move to the public schools starting next fall. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. We are working with area directors to consider regional programming for students who have until 22 now to earn their diploma, which is primarily mostly our students in functional life skills. That's what we're looking for. Continuing professional development for reading and math interventions. That stuff changes all the time, and what a teacher may have knowledge of, and they might not need a certain program for a few years until they get their student that this is the program that fits them, and now they're like, okay, I got to remember how to do that. So we're always having to re-up their certifications and their learning on that. Developing an understanding of augmentative and alternative communication with all staff in the district. As you saw, our number, particularly in the autism program, is high. And many of our students have communication needs, and so they are learning to communicate in different ways if they're not verbal at this time. And so we're really trying to help all staff learn how to how to help those students utilize those communication devices, because it's a lot of learning for the student, but it's also, there's a few of them that'll be happy to let you guess for an hour what they're trying to say instead of using that. So we're really trying to work with the staff of how to help encourage them and how to use those things. And then we're always looking at the social emotional skills and executive functioning skills to help our teachers develop those in our students. We have increased our student-led or involved IEP meetings. It is something that we were doing a lot of work on prior to COVID, and so we're really getting back there. We want our students to know what their disabilities are, what their goal areas are, and what their strengths are. And when they know what their goal areas are and how they can get rid of having to come and work with us, then they take on that learning and they take on those goals. And we want them to show that off in an IEP meeting. And it is so powerful for them, and it just keeps everything feeling positive and moving in the right directions. That can be for all ages. Some students aren't ready to lead it, but we're looking at ways they can partake. Some students videotaped themselves on Zoom and then came in and pressed the button, not on Zoom, on a video, and they pressed the button to play it, and that was how they participated. All the way to, I had a second grader a few years ago that led the IEP meeting in reading his evaluations and why he no longer needed speech language and dismissed himself. So talk about powerful. It was huge. So that is now the standard that we're always aiming for. Oh, and we began main care reimbursement last March. And so we're continuing to work and increase that. I talked a little bit about this past fall when we were talking about how we are utilizing our social workers and guidance counselors in our schools. ACE, Adverse Childhood Experience, is something that that group and my special ed team would always be able to talk a little bit about, is some of the things that our students go through, not just special education, all of our students, but why are we paying so attention to it? And that it is around the negative impacts that these things might have, and it's like traumatic events of abuse or drug use in the home, or family member, violent death of a family member, things like that. So I don't want to spend too much time because I already did that this fall for you, but I just wanted to point out that that is something that we are constantly paying attention to because of the fact that 1 in 5 students experience 4 or more ACEs. That is 560 of our students in Gorham, if you look at it that way. That is just absolutely huge. Our concern that we have been looking at for the past over a year now is that more than half of our special education students in the middle school and high school are receiving social work services. And I went, that's not right. And we took every IEP and the evaluations and the files, and we went through every one of them, and it is right. They are legitimately getting those services based on the data and the evaluations, and that is alarming to me, that we have that many students that are in need of social work services in special education. So something that we're continuing to look at, and then also just look at what can we do to better support for the younger students in order to avoid those numbers going any higher. I'm going to let Nicole take over this one. This is her baby.
Okay, so I'm sure you all know that we are working on taking on FAPE for our 4-year-olds next year. So we are continuing to collaborate with our Cumberland County Community of Practice. And for those that don't know what that is, that's just a really fun group of childcare providers that come together, and we talk about similar issues that they're having, or it's an opportunity to provide professional development. And so we've done a really nice job of bringing some of our professionals in to teach them, like what are the early indicators for speech impairment when developmentally is it appropriate for you to be concerned, and when is it that's a typical speech delay. So we are currently servicing 33 children across all of our public pre-K partners. Those kiddos might have specially designed instruction with a special ed teacher. They might have speech or they might have OT. We are anticipating that we'll start the school year next year with 46 children. That is very subject to change. It literally changes every week, probably. So we have a partnership with our local CDS administrator and case manager, and we're really lucky in Gorham because they are phenomenal humans and they are really good at their jobs. And so they share with me every Friday, and every Friday I have a caseload change that is like, what? So we also know that we have 18 children right now who fall under what's called the 676 rule, which is a CDS rule, which we believe, we've been told, will go away when we take over FAPE. So what that means is if they have what they call the magic birthday, the family gets to choose as a part of the IEP team if they'll move forward to kindergarten or if they will repeat a year of pre-K. So we have 18 this year, which I can't recall a time where we had that many. So that's kind of just how it worked out, but that's a lot.
The magic birthday is that they wouldn't be turning 5 until between August 15th and October 15th.
But they had to have qualified by December 1st. There's all these like little nuances to it. So we have 18 of those, which is pretty wild. So far we've submitted our initial budget for the Department of Ed to get some feedback. We are beginning our hiring this month for positions that are associated with the early child care special education program we're taking on. As I said, we're getting a weekly caseload update. We are continuing to do outreach and communication with families, with local child care providers. Heather's got us set up for a nice meeting next week to give them all an update. We've observed all but 2, and only because they were new move-ins, but all of our children that are receiving their services in a special purpose preschool. And we will begin our FAPE transition meetings in May in collaboration with CDS. On the total other spectrum, we have Voc Rehab update. So Kathy mentioned Goodwill, and it's kind of a new initiative in the last few years that the Department of Labor has paired with Goodwill services, and they're doing this program called Goodwill Boot Camp. And we were one of the first districts to try that out, so this is year number 2. We last year had enough students to be able to do 2 classes. This year we were only able to fit in 1, but we did have 12 students participate. They do get credit for that. We're hoping that next year we'll be able to work with the schedule to get 2 more classes again. This culminates in a paid work experience for students, so we do anticipate that we'll have 8 students that take some sort of paid employment after this through Goodwill, so it's really exciting. And it's not at Goodwill. Goodwill just supports the employment, so they do the outreach. They're all what they're called job developers. So that was really hard for us to take on, so I'm grateful that they're doing that. We know that we currently have 8 students, it's probably the same 8, that are what's called in service with Voc Rehab, and what that means is it kind of ebbs and flows. Kids can come in and out of service with Voc Rehab depending on what their needs are. The ultimate goal, like Kathy shared earlier, is that Voc Rehab is helping support employment, whether that's they needed support to get through college to get to their ultimate dream job, whether they need help with driver's ed so they can get to a job. What's the program called? Sorry, there's another program for driver's ed. It's called Alpha One through Voc Rehab. And that really helps students who need help with like both sides of aggressive driving. So students who might be a little bit more passive, it does help teach them that confidence to be aggressive in a safe way, and then vice versa. So we currently have 8, but that flows all year. That's just our most recent number as of Monday. We just completed our monitoring or our audit through the Department of Ed for our paperwork. So we had actually a really good outcome. We had a couple things that we need to improve on. One of those is, it's called the how statement. So we have to identify what the students' gaps are and then how those gaps impact their access to the general ed curriculum. We're doing exactly what they told us 4 years ago. They've since changed how they want us to do it, but they're still making us do a plan for it, even though we're doing what they said. So I still feel really good about that. And the other thing that for growth was we have to increase our participation in the alternate assessment. And that's an assessment that the timing coincides with the NWEA, which your typical general ed students take. These are for students that have significant cognitive disabilities, and it wouldn't be appropriate for them to take the NWEA. So we just did a training and got our plan for that, and that's a quick, easy fix for us. We had a lot of strengths, which we were really excited about. Just a few were that they really liked our goal development. They really liked that all of our gaps did align directly to a goal, which aligned directly to a service. Our form completion, we have a lot of state required forms, I'm sure you know, and we do a really nice job with that. Our compliance with state timelines was really solid, and our post-secondary transition planning, we got 100% on, so that was exciting. And then I don't know much about this next one, but it sounds like our local entitlement audit went really well. I see Heather nodding. So we will expect them back in another 4 years. Here you go. Yay.
Okay. So I would just like to point out on the audit part, we always know there's going to be something because they change it. And it depends on who the audit team is, which changes all the time. So it's going to be something. We were really a bit frustrated, though, with the alternative assessment because it was one student who was not able to continue the test. But our question was, how long were we supposed to wait before they finally wouldn't continue? And we really didn't get an answer on that. And so I'm not really worried about it. And one other area that they had talked about, that they had suggested we're in complete disagreement with, and so went our legal team, so we're ignoring that other one. We're currently billing MaineCare for speech language services, occupational therapy, and physical therapy. We have 283 MaineCare eligible students in special education. We have parent permission to bill for 160 of those. But currently for those three services that we're billing for, there are 99 students that are eligible, and we have 66 of the students do we have permission for. So we're continuing to support our staff on following protocols and making sure we're learning and following what we need to do. We're continuing to reach out to parents to add consents and helping them understand what that means and that the help that it would give the district. We're also at this point, we're doing BHP, behavioral health professional training for our FLS and behavior program, EdTechs. It's in progress right now. To help them prepare for the 612 EdTechs, and those programs have started that. They started that in December, and they'll complete it in September. And our K-5 will start that in April, and they'll complete it next March. Because we're using all of our early release and a couple of extra days in there, as you have seen in the budget, that we've requested around that time to help them find the time to do that. And so our hope is that then later next year, we'll be able to begin looking at billing for day treatment services in the schools for those heavier needs programming. This is going to depend, though, on the policy changes that are currently happening at DHHS because they were audited by the feds and weren't doing things necessarily correctly or telling the schools to do the appropriate thing. And so there is a little bit of concern there. And so they did some really quick policy changes, and we're all trying to figure out exactly what that means for us and still learning those. So the directors are all kind of working together right now to get a better handle on what that looks like and means. And obviously we work also with our billing program. And right now I think they're feeling like we're in a good place. We're meeting those needs. It's really more around those day treatment changes that we haven't even begun yet. So hopefully no bad habits that we've already started. Some changes on the horizon that may increase our population in a few years or so. The special ed director at the Department of Education has been talking about this for a few years now, but she is planning to open the main regulation to make some changes. And one of the changes that she wants to make is she wants to make developmental delay, which is one of those categories. Currently, you can't have developmental delay past kindergarten. So when students come to us with developmental delay, we reassess them in kindergarten to look to see if they qualify under another area of eligibility. She would like to turn that to go into third grade. There's a lot of us that are not sure that I don't appreciate it, quite honestly. I think it's gonna be good for a small number of our students that it makes sense for. I worry that it will become a dumping ground, as it has in the past, of students that have needs, and so let's just call it that. And it is a worry for me. And CDS had to really work hard to keep it from being that, because it did happen to them for quite a while, and they had to just change some practices on that. So I am really concerned about that. I think that would increase our numbers a bit. So we're being careful. We're going to be watching that. But again, there's also a small group of kids that there's no doubt it will be good for them.
Kathy, sorry, can I ask a quick
Please,
question?
go ahead.
Where does the developmental delay, who makes that determination?
The IEP team, so it's evaluation. So the psychologist, the instructional strategist, whoever is doing the evaluations, they take all the information together, they bring it to the IEP team, and we all make that together.
Sorry, but I meant before they come to us. So you said if they come to us or the
Okay, right now, it's Child Development Services.
Okay.
Pretty soon, it's going to be us.
Okay, gotcha.
Which will make it makes sense to me, and again, for smaller children, especially when you're just like, I'm not quite sure that this is really, especially when they're really little, are we really going to call this ADHD?
Right.
Or is it, or they're just really busy because they're 4?
Yeah.
Or is this really about an autism right? It makes a lot more sense for that. And there's a good argument that it's difficult to even make that call on a kindergartner. So that's where I see that this could be a good call for a small group of kids, but I am just worried about what that could mean overall for the population. Yeah.
I think right now, the reason it's used within CDS is because some of their rules are barriers for children getting what they need. So if they have identified that a child has a speech language impairment, their doctor has diagnosed them with autism, but in their preschool setting, the teacher is not seeing the adverse effect of the autism, they then can't get their OT.
Yeah.
So they're able to, it's a way for them to get kids what they need in a creative way that then causes problems down the road. Does that make sense?
Yep, it did.
There's also talk at the federal level that they're looking to add another classification area of dyslexia. And currently, dyslexia is a reading learning disability, so it falls under specific learning disability. And this is something we actually just learned about last week. And they're saying that the qualifications of that would be way less stringent than they currently are. Like, the fight would be students who have a reading problem. And I was like, oh goodness. So I'm sure it's going to be more stringent than that. But it does make me worried about what that could mean, and again, the services and what we have in place to provide. So just something we're keeping an eye on. I'll keep you guys updated. A couple reminders of why we do what we do. These are some examples of the Best Buddies programs we have at each grade span. Narragansett Middle School and High School have groups, and Best Buddies it's a kind of a national program that the schools can join in on, and it just brings students with significant needs along with students who may be less significant or may not have disabilities into doing some fun things together. And I think this is how you develop teachers, is these kind of programs, right? This is how many of us got caught and are doing what we do now because of what we did in middle school or high school. And the fact that we're doing it at the elementary level at this point is awesome. And I think that our schools do a lot where they're bringing kids together, but this has just been fun. They cook together or they do crafts, and they figure out together what they're gonna do next. And we're seeing it in the hallways. Everybody's talking, and so our students who are in special education for 60% or more of the time is giving them more opportunities to be with their non-disabled peers.
Awesome.
We have unified sports. So we have the unified basketball, which has been amazing, and it is probably one of the most fun games to be able to attend. If you haven't gone to one yet, you have to go next year. Just so much fun. We have unified bocce. We have unified PE class. So our adapted PE teacher is teaching a unified PE class, which has been really fun, and getting some of our regular ed students to come in and volunteer and work there. And we're beginning to look at other content classes that we can look at as being unified. It's different than co-teaching. Co-teaching is going to be a special ed teacher working with a regular ed teacher, and it's not. It's at least 50-50, really. The majority of it is students that are not disabled. Unified might be the majority of them are students. It's a special education class, but we have regular ed students coming in and partaking. It just, again, it's just an opportunity. But that is really how you make special ed teachers, is those classes. So we're really going to work on increasing that. And then we just have so many things going on in our district. And unfortunately, I feel like I'm always telling you about all the problems that we have. And so, I try to include the opportunities, things that are going on in the classroom. It can be really difficult because I have to be careful about confidentiality. So wherever I can, I'll try to send pictures or give you a look into a day. But if any of you if you ever have questions specifically around the programming or understanding special ed, please just give me a call. I've always opened it up to school board members and town council members, and sometimes I've had some really, really great discussions on maybe it's about the budget and how I start figuring that out, or more about understanding how a student qualifies for special education. And I also have done tours of programs. So if any of you ever would like to take a tour of any of our programs, some people just want to see like one particular school, and I've done all of the schools and done all the programs. So I'm happy to do any of those, and Nicole is too. So please just give us a call.
And there's Best Buddies Breakfast fundraiser, I think 28th. In a couple weeks.
We'll send it out.
At the high school. If you haven't seen about it, it's sure to be a good time.
Is that the Dream Factory breakfast, or is that different?
I'm sorry?
It's different. Okay, sorry.
With the
I'm
unified
mixing them.
basketball is doing it.
Oh, okay.
I think they're doing it together.
It's a together thing, yep.
Oh, okay.
It's on social media. I posted it yesterday.
Yes. Yeah, thank you.
Perfect.
Any questions?
Yeah, go
I had
ahead.
a couple, actually.
Yeah.
I was curious I'll kind of work my way backwards, I think, on the parent permission to bill piece. What's the biggest barrier there in getting that permission? Is it awareness, or would you say it's something else?
So I feel like we've been doing the awareness piece a little bit ad nauseum, but sometimes it's because they're afraid of what that means. They're giving their insurance information and what that can mean to bill, and it will not affect their insurance. But in years past, as much as DHHS will say it never did, it did. I saw that. It did affect them. It wasn't supposed to. I don't know what went wrong there. I believe it's been fixed, and they'll tell us, you call us, because that is not right. But I think there's a worry, because you're also giving us a lot of personal information, almost the same way that some parents aren't filling out that form for the beginning of the year for free lunch. It's a lot of information. It's a lot of personal information, and some people are like, turned off by that. And I think that's the same piece. Is just not sure what that means. So at each Children's Annual, we did a lot of mailings. We did things through Blue Ink, which is like a place where we can get signatures and things. We sent those out of a general mailing for all of our special ed families. To understanding, I did get phone calls, which was great. I answered a lot of questions, but even with answering questions, parents were like, still not quite sure. And so now at every annual meeting, our case managers and our instructional strategists bring it up, and they talk about it and ask permission. And then we just keep going from there.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. That's helpful. Makes sense. Okay. Thank you. I just have a couple more. On one of your earlier slides, it called out at Village is where we have the behavior program. And I was just wondering to make sure my understanding is correct. Is there a goal to have a behavior program at each elementary school? And can you remind me of the relationship between the behavior program and the potential future transitions happening everywhere? Those are not the same programs, right?
No, those will be regular education. Yep. This is special education. And so the only students that can access are those who have an IEP and have a huge need. So it is a more restrictive programming than our resource. And we're very careful that we're trying to avoid students from going into more restrictive programming. It is the law. Least restrictive environment is the law as much as possible. And so we will work really hard with kids at all of those schools, and the team, which is our BCBAs have been huge for helping the teachers. They consult nonstop. But it comes to a point where we're not making the gains we need to. They need a more restrictive programming. We have an application process for that where everybody comes together and we take it into account. We look at the data. We look at is there anything else we should be trying first? And then at that point, we'll work with the families to say, we're feeling like this is where the appropriate programming is at this time. Mm-hmm. There's only a total of seven students right now. So to have that across 3 schools, the numbers aren't there. Oh my gosh, the principals would love that because they don't want to lose their students. They want to keep their students at their schools, and it is really important. So it's not an easy decision for that to happen. And that's another reason why, we take our time, we really make sure it's the right decision for that student. But because of those numbers, it doesn't make sense at this time. The regular education program will be looking at students who don't qualify for special education due to a behavior. They may have these behaviors, but there are multiple reasons why they may not qualify. Not all disabilities fall under special education services.
Awesome. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And then this is my last one. So another thing that you mentioned that I found interesting was the numbers on the 47 students that no longer qualified for services, or there's 5 that did not qualify. And I was just wondering if you could speak to kind of what happens for those students when they're released from services. Like, what does that transition look like? And then how often is it that someone kind of rebounds back? Does that ever happen?
Oh, yeah. I couldn't tell you how often, but yes, it definitely does. And we always, so they all leave with a plan. So if a student is referred, well, there's 2 things. If they're referred to special education, we always tell the parents, we have all this information from all the evaluations we have. We're gonna, if they may be eligible, and then we'll look at an IEP. If they're not eligible, we're still talking about a plan through RTI because we have all this great information that we're not about to waste. So either way, we're talking a plan for a student, because they came to that referral process for a reason. If there's a student that's been in special ed for a number of years, and now they no longer qualify, they're still leaving with a plan. They may qualify for Section 504. They may still have a disability, but may not be in need of direct instruction, just accommodations. So they'll step down to a 504. So there's still somebody watching, there's a case manager, and everybody's aware, and we're still watching. And usually before we have them dismissed, they've been usually on maintenance for a while anyway. So there's been a little bit of independence usually for a bit. So we're feeling kind of confident. Not all of them, but the majority of them. So there could be 504, or it would be a response to intervention RTI plan. So they're going to be back into an RTI plan. It's not going to be direct instruction in the lab, because we just said they didn't need that. But it's going to be an eyes-on. Do they need a check-in? It's usually more of a tier 1, 2 with the teacher of we're watching for that. And certainly, yes, we've had students that were like, ooh, something happened here, and the team can come back to the table within that school year. If it moves into a different school year, we might do the re-referral, and we still work with them on that part. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Yeah. Go ahead.
I had a question about the Goodwill program and kind of what's the age range of the students that participate in those programs?
16.
So there's a spectrum of what they can offer, right? So say we have a freshman, what are they, 14? I'm a middle school person, so they would do what's called a job shadow. So we would have, we have a folk rehab counselor. Her name is Debbie Berry, and she comes to Gorham High School once a month, and she has regularly scheduled time with students she needs to meet with. So whether it's updating, what's their wish? What do they want? So the early side of it is the job shadow, where they go on visits and explore things that might be of interest to them. And then the next step up from that is job coaching. So they have to be 16 in order to be, or they have to be 15 with a worker's permit. And that entails having a certified job coach on the work site with them, supporting them and working toward independence. So we have some job coaches. Over the years, people who have moved on to other places that were our job coaches, so I think we maybe have 2. but Goodwill is doing it, and that is not at a cost to us. So it's a really nice relationship we have with them. So there's a big spectrum. I just told you 2 little things, but they do so much more. We had students working at Sodexo at USM a couple summers ago. They outfitted the kids in their full uniform. They got them the no-slip shoes, the pants, the belt, all the pieces of the uniform that they would need so that they started off with success. They do so much. This is just a small, while they're in high school, what we're utilizing them for. But there's so much more.
But it introduces them to the program so that then they know and they're familiar with, here's my person, so after I leave high school, this is still something that I'm going to have available to me through my adulthood.
Can you give just sort of an overview, just so that everybody understands all the work that's involved, really, from the point that a student is referred till they qualify? Because I know it's not just one meeting.
You want me here all night, huh?
No, and I just want folks to understand it's not just you're referred, yes or no. There's a lot of work that goes into that.
So the RTI team, it's usually the majority of our referrals come from the response to intervention team. They have tried multiple interventions. They're not making the gains that they expected, or they're making slow gains, and we see that this is a long-term need for a student. It's not going to be a year or less, or even a year and a half. So the team will then make a referral to special education, and they'll talk with the family about here's what why we're doing this, get them on board. The referral is made by the school. It comes to me. I sign it. Then there's 15 school days from there to either send those parents a consent to evaluate or to have a first step IEP meeting. We normally usually have a first step IEP meeting so we can discuss what are the concerns, what information do we have, what other information do we need to gather, and what evaluations are we going to do. And then everybody's on the same page. And then also, RTI, what are you doing in the meantime? Because you now have to do something different than what you've been doing, because we said that doesn't work. So everybody kind of has those conversations. That's a very formal individual education plan. We then, once we have a consent signed by the parent, we have 45 school days to conduct all the evaluations and get everybody back to the table to review those evaluations and discuss and consider eligibility for special education. And so at that meeting, if a student is eligible, we will talk about what the goals are that are going to be addressed, and it's all based on that data and that classification area. And we can only address in the goals what we have qualified them for. So if we have a student that has qualified for specific learning disability in reading, we're not adding social work, because that is not going to be related to a specific learning disability. So they might actually have multiple plans going at the same time. We talk about that, and we try to streamline it as much as we can. And then we'll come back to that table once we have that qualification. We now have 30 calendar days to come back to the table, offer the IEP to the parents. We all talk about it. We make adjustments based on what the team is discussing on the goals and the accommodations. And then we get it implemented with the student. So it sounds like a really long amount of time for a process, and it can be really frustrating for parents, but there's a lot happening in there. And luckily with Gorham, because we have such strong interventions through regular education, there's always something happening. We're not just leaving a student floundering while we're doing these things. There's always a plan in place, and we're always basing it on what we have for data and concerns. That is a real nutshell version. Was that good?
That's helpful, I think, just so that everybody understands there is a lot that goes into it.
There is. And even the trainings I've done for ed techs to show them what it takes to take those evaluations and how we look at it and qualify has kind of blown their minds, and then what it takes to develop an IEP by our case managers. It is a significant amount of work. They are very legal documents, so you really want to make sure we're doing right by that. We have a number of people checking them to make sure that we're doing right by our students. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
Finally, super quick, I always like for folks to be reminded of what is the age that we provide education for, how. Okay. Do you know what I mean?
Right now it's 5 to 22. Next year it'll be 4 to 22, and the year after that it'll be 3 to 22. But technically, we'll start when we get the 3-year-olds. We'll start working with them at 2.3 years old as part of the determining if they are eligible for an IEP, because at that point they're in a service plan when they're birth to 2, and then we'll use that a big part of that year. So we have to have them. We have to have the meeting, the evaluations of the meeting by 2.9, so that they have an IEP in place if they qualify by their 3rd birthday, and then we would get them.
I think
So
it's just helpful.
2.9 to 22.
It's quite a range, and I always want folks to know that.
Thank you.
Because I think it's not. I think people think that it's typically not that age range, so I think it's helpful.
Yeah, it has definitely changed a lot in the last few years.
Yeah.
On both ends of that spectrum.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to get the 3 to 5 year olds. It's something that special ed directors have wanted for over 30 years, and so we're finally getting there. I'm a little frustrated with having students till 22, not because I don't love our students and love having them here. I just think that by 20 to 22, it needs to be different for them. They are so ready for adulthood. And I testified at the legislature that I really would rather see the funds that are needed for that be going to the adult services, which is where they're at. And unfortunately, that funding is just not there across the state. And our students are on waiting lists once they leave us. So we're doing a lot of work, and there's not the other end outcome for them to really be able to continue moving forward with the skills that they're developing. So it's very frustrating, but we continue to work and push for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much. This is wonderful information to learn about, and definitely as folks have questions, please reach out. But thank you so much for your time tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to 3.0 communications, 3.1 public comment. Is there any member of the public that would like to make public comment? Seeing none. Moving on to 3.2 student school committee members.
Yeah, just both of our student members are not here tonight. One due to Ramadan, and the other due to the athletic banquet and rewards night that's happening tonight. They're just very busy, young adults in our schools, and so they did provide a written report. I don't know if you want me to share any key points. I certainly could. That's linked into the agenda, but certainly, so here's what they wanted me to share. How's that? I'll share it out. Gorham Sports Night is tonight. There you go. That's why one of them is not here. Last week was School Social Worker Appreciation Week. They wanted to make sure to thank our social workers. This comes from students, by the way. It's not me. We had our NEASC decennial visit. That was last week at the high school, and the students were very much a part of that process, and so they were very aware that was happening. March 6th, 3rd quarter progress reports were sent out. They talked about the one-act play performance the weekend of February 28th, and then they went to regionals last weekend. I actually don't know how they did. I haven't seen that yet. So, anyway, but that was a great play. I did go to the play. It was a great play. Hockey had a great last game with a lot of student support. So the boys did go quite far in the tournament, but did fall a little short. But they had a great season, represented us well as always. And then they talked about the unified basketball games and how well the students are doing and how much they enjoy attending the unified basketball games, as Kathy mentioned. So that was their report.
Great. Thank you. Moving on to 3.3, superintendent.
All right, I'm only going to read or share publicly one spot here, and then the rest is in writing if anybody wants to refer to it. But I do want to kind of blaze through with my continued monthly update on achievement results and some of the work that goes into the State of the Schools report, which is on our website. I've been trying to pick a piece each month and just share it as we go. So tonight I just wanted to share our Metrics for Success document. I'd shared some pieces of that before, but the Metrics for Success document has several key indicators. The first thing that we look at is whether or not 100% of our high school graduates graduate with a plan, and we do meet that goal, or at least we did meet that goal last year, where everybody had a plan either to go to post-secondary, military, workforce, or gap year, but some sort of plan was in place. Another one of our metrics is to maintain a graduation rate higher than the mean of Cumberland County high schools. We do meet that, and we did meet it last year. All students will meet college, career, life-ready skills outlined at each transition point, grade 5, 9, and 12. If this goal is not met, the school will respond with specific RTI plans and other supportive measures. I said yes because even though not all of our students met those transition pieces, we do have a plan in place to try to get them there. So that part of it is there. Gore School Department will maintain scores above the state average and above Cumberland County average on academic achievement testing. We do meet in part because we do that for the state assessment comparisons. We are not, however, at above the mean on Cumberland County, so that's a challenge point and a continued striving emphasis that we'll place on things as we move forward. The next piece was qualitative data indicate a majority of parents, staff, and students feel positive about our schools. We absolutely meet that one with spades. In fact, we're up over 80% on all those metrics across the board, so that's really good. And of course, we get the best places to work accolades every year that we've done that process, so that's always a good thing. And then the last one is teachers score 3 or above on all standards in our PPG system. For those that do not, a plan is in place to ensure that they do. We do meet that because they either meet that requirement or we have a plan in place for them, but 89% of our teachers meet that, and then the other small percentage do have some plans to just nudge them across the finish line, and it's really not typically anything significant. So there, I just wanted to share that data. Again, there's more in the report. You can read that, and hopefully people see it online.
Okay, great. Thank you, Superintendent Perry. Oh, sorry, is there any questions on that? I went too fast past that. Okay. All right, seeing no questions or comments. All right, moving on to 3.4 School Committee. I'll start over here with Eric.
I have 3 quick things. One, for anybody with children my kids' age, the Gorham Rec Summer Camp sign-up is open. So don't forget about that because I've heard it fills up very quickly. A reminder for our PIE meeting series. We do have a meeting tomorrow at Narragansett, the 16th at the middle school, which I will be at, and the 24th at Great Falls, and PIE stands for Partners in Education. This is a series that we're putting on, which is designed to be an introduction to the school committee and allow people to interact face-to-face. We also have plenty of other ways to get involved with the Q&A document, which is now many, many pages long with great information. And on that point, we've had 2 wonderful, long budget workshop meetings, which have produced some really, really good conversation around some tough issues that we're working through as a committee, which we'll be presenting to the town. We also have 3 more coming up, and it would be great to have some public participation at those meetings to really see the work that goes into it. Those are scheduled for the 16th of this month, the 23rd, and the 30th. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Eric. Polly.
I was going to follow on from what Eric said with the PIE meetings. I've been to a couple of those, and I've enjoyed them. There's input from parents from other states, other communities, just hearing about like their policies on PED, what's that? Personal electronic devices. It's just something our school's been looking at. So it's nice to get the input from parents and meet them.
Yeah. All right, awesome. Thanks, Polly. Lawanza.
I just want to kind of love so much this music program and all the work that they did put into that. I have a child who would have been unable to access the extra band practices if they had not found a solution, and so very glad that was an option and that somebody put in all that effort, because if somebody doesn't, then it doesn't happen. So grateful for it, because my kid goes to the Monday afternoon ones and he's playing the old xylophone. So
great, awesome. Thanks, Lawanza. Mia.
I just wanted to do a shout out. I briefly mentioned it a little ahead of schedule last month, but there was a job fair that Great Falls put on for all the kids and the families. And just a huge shout out to anybody that was involved with that. I know that Julie Murray did an astounding job sort of spearheading that. And so it would have been something to see. I think that it would fabulous. One thing that I noticed in the middle school administrative reports, they're doing a Minding Your Mind assembly this spring, where they're having somebody come in and do a assembly for 7th and 8th graders on how to manage anxiety. And so I think that is just really interesting. I don't know Heather, if this is even something that could be done, but if an assembly could be recorded, I don't know that it can be, but just if there was a way for that information to get shared, because I think that would be beneficial to so many people.
It is difficult to record assemblies, either because of FERPA issues with student faces that may not
That
have
was what I was
permission,
thinking,
but
but-
also because sometimes if we bring in an outside consultant, there's copyright materials.
Oh, yeah, that would be bad. Okay.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Mia. Moving on to Jeff.
So a few things to share this week, or this month. Last week, the Village Principal Search Committee wrapped up our work with a stakeholder night at Village School that invited parents, community members, and the candidates gave presentations on kind of their vision for Village. We didn't have a count, but I think there was probably in the neighborhood of 60 people. 50, yeah, because we had 100 responses, I know, on the thing, but it was standing room only. Two very strong candidates. Now it's thankfully out of our hands, and Superintendent Perry is going to take over from here, and I don't envy her because she has a very tough decision to make because we did send her two very good quality candidates. This weekend, I traveled to Bangor. One of the Gorham freshman girls was selected for the Rising Stars All-Star Game, which was the top 20 underclassmen, so freshmen and sophomores in the state that were chosen for the All-Star Game. And it was wonderful to kind of see a Gorham being represented at that high of a level, so that was great. And then lastly, I want to mention, it's kind of been brought up already, that on March 21st at the Gorham High School Gymnasium, the unified basketball team is going to be hosting their breakfast and open gymnasium time, and that's from 8:30 a.m. until 10. And an extra highlight that Sullivan House Bakery is going to be providing breakfast for that. So two very great reasons to come out. And like it was said earlier, the unified games are so much fun. It's such a great example of kind of the Gorham, values, code of conduct just being in action displayed between the athletes and the partners. Wonderful time. Yesterday for senior night, they played a very good Westbrook team, and it was fun to kind of see the Gorham players really kind of stepping up to play at the same level that Westbrook had a couple of very talented, very athletic players, and it was exciting to kind of see the Gorham students really rise to that occasion, and it was a very intense game for a few minutes, and one of the athletes was playing against a young man that was larger than she was, and it was fun to watch the two of them. It was playful for the most part, but they were boxing each other out, playing defense with very good intensity, which made for a very exciting time. So if you're around on Saturday, March 21st, that would be a great event to check out.
Great, awesome. Thanks, Jeff. Michelle.
I just had one quick thing. I want to give kudos to Principal Witham and the folks at the middle school who worked on releasing the new Family Resource Hub, which I went down a rabbit hole because I have two middle schoolers, and boy, there's a lot of really good content on here. Things like how to set your Apple screen time, internet matters, ages 11 to 13, the adolescent brain, what's actually happening, and then my most recent favorite, why are they so emotional? So if you work with middle schoolers, highly recommend checking out the Resource Hub.
That's awesome. Great. Thanks, Michelle. I would like to, our young musicians from Narragansett left so quickly that we really didn't get to say what a wonderful job that they did. So for folks that might be watching, and maybe Superintendent Perry, you could let Mrs. Epler know that they did a very wonderful job and that we were all very impressed with their skills tonight.
They were so organized.
They were so quiet, and they just marched themselves out, and we didn't get to, other than clap, we didn't get to say much. So I felt bad and want to make sure that they get the message. So All right, great. Moving on to 4.0, school committee standing and special committees. 4.1, finance and facilities. Michelle.
Yes, so our last meeting was on February 25th. One of the big agenda items that we discussed in that last meeting was the work regarding the high school track bid, which you all should be familiar with because we brought it to the meeting that followed the finance committee meeting that night. We also talked about the contract for the ADA improvements at Narragansett. And then we also, just in budget mode, we talked through kind of how we're going to proceed forward with, the 10-year capital plan and just giving some needed direction there on how we want to move forward with the kind of reworking the list of things. So that is in progress and probably going to have much updates to come. And then we also went through our normal kind of items that we look at monthly, the financial statements, the sub-report, the warrant review, the overtime reports, and the credit card review. And our next meeting is going to be scheduled for March 25th at 6 p.m. And that is one that's going to be at Narragansett Elementary School for our traveling tours.
Thanks, Michelle. Any questions for Michelle? All right, seeing none. Moving on to 4.2, policy. Mia.
Thank you. We met actually on February 23rd. It was a snow day, but we thought it was still really important to meet, so we did that via Zoom. I think it was because we're worried about meeting every other month, and there's so much we wanted to make sure that we were able to still talk about. So we did spend some time fine-tuning and going over the cell phone policy. We were planning on doing a read of that tonight, but based on the governor's bill requesting the possibility of a bell-to-bell, we're kind of putting that on hold just so that we don't bring something forward that may possibly need to get changed. So that's just kind of on hold a little bit. We did discuss 2 policies for first read that I'll bring up in just a little bit. We are continuing to work through our letter J's. We are almost through the J's, and we're moving on to policies in our audit that are color-coded pink, which basically means that they haven't been looked at. They are 11 to 16 years old since they've been reviewed. And so we will be tackling those next. And if I remember correctly, there's only a handful.
There's not many.
There's only a handful. So we are doing excellent work. Our next meeting is April 8th at 5:30 in the superintendent's office.
Great. Any questions for Mia? All right, awesome. Thank you. Moving on to 4.3, personnel. Eric.
We haven't met since the last meeting, and we don't have a meeting scheduled right now.
Okay, great. Thank you. Moving on to 4.4, vocational education. Jeff.
All right. Unfortunately, I missed the last meeting, but the highlights, there was a presentation from the automotive technology program talking about what they've been doing. Applications are open for next year. Luckily, WRVC has more applications in process than they have positions, which is a good place for them to be in, where they have approximately 350, I think, for 269 seats there. They talked about students had been, they had 123 students who were placed on the director's list, so celebrating their academic achievements. And the next meeting is tomorrow at Paths, which I will be attending.
Great. Any questions for Jeff? All right, awesome. Thank you. Moving on to 4.4, ad hoc committees, teaching and Gorham Teaching and Learning, which is me. And our last meeting we had in February, we're continuing to review the updated Portrait of a Graduate work and looking at how do we want to measure our district's success and making sure that students are achieving the skills that we've outlined in this Portrait of a Graduate. We were able to do some small group work, which I think is super helpful to really move forward in this progress, and then being able to come back to the larger group and share. So it's a work in progress, I would say. Any questions on that? Next meeting? And the next meeting? Our next meeting is scheduled for March 25th at 3:30 via Zoom. All right. Moving on to Anti-Racism and Equity Committee, Lawanza.
Yeah, so I was unfortunately unable to make that meeting, but we did all kind of continue to meet in our groups, working on that policy and advocacy, community events, creating toolkits. All those are still in progress and working on them. But one big thing that we want to get out there is that we're announcing an Eat and Learn event for May 4th at 5:30 p.m. with the location to be determined. So we'll be giving out more information about that as we kind of discover where they want to host that and give you a little bit of a blurb about what's going to go on there. And our next meeting date is March 26th at 5:30 at the high school library.
Great. Any questions for Lawanza? All right, awesome, thank you. Moving on to Dropout Prevention Committee, Mia.
We have not met, and our next meeting has not been scheduled yet.
Okay, great, thank you. Moving on to 5.0 unfinished business, none. 6.0 new business, action as needed on communications and reports. First reading of the following policies: child find, IHBAC, and referral and use of general education interventions, IHBAA. Mia.
All right, so we're bringing these forward for first reading, and so please review and let Mrs. Perry or I know if you have any suggestions. Basically on IHBAC, which is the child find, changes below were required by the recent Maine Department of Education review. It changes reflect changing some of the age requirements, basically what Kathy Hamlin talked about, that we're currently going to 22, and we'll be starting, as early as age 3 or 2.3. And let's see, it also clarifies the responsibilities for sharing of information and removes the references to CDS. This was one that had not been looked at for a good amount of time, and so there are some significant just sort of wordsmithing changes as well. For the referral and use of general education interventions, which is IHBAA, it's just a very small adjustment to account for the 3 and 4-year-olds that will be coming. So,
great. Any questions for me on these so far? Again, first read.
First read.
So, all right. Awesome. After this, next on the agenda, we're going to be going into executive session. We're not going to be doing any voting during or after this executive session, so we will be adjourning after that. But 6.3, executive session to discuss duties of officials, appointees, employees pursuant to 1 MSRA subsection 4056A. Is there a motion? Motion by Michelle, second?
Second.
Second by Jeff. All those in favor? Do we vote to go into this?
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor? 7-0.
So you're in at 8:22.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.